Nintendo wants you to forget about one of their biggest sins, and they're using Tears of the Kingdom to do it. They're trying to correct something that's been a plague in the entire Zelda series thus far. Give me just a few moments and I'll expose this sin and tell you how they're going to change the narrative completely with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. If there is one thing that has been a sore in the Legend of Zelda series since its jump to 3D, it's gotta be the overworlds. Every overworld has had its issues. Ocarina of Time and, to a similar sense, Majora's Mask were limited by hardware. The Nintendo 64 just couldn't handle having a large overworld and have it be densely packed at the same time. Wind Waker was a little better. Every sector of the map at least had something to do and see, but getting there could sometimes be a bore. Twilight Princess is just kinda empty, which is why I think they made it so easy to teleport around the map with Midna, because they knew the overworld just had nothing to really see in it. Breath of the Wild was the first game to really push boundaries for The Legend of Zelda. It had a massive overworld that was both unique and fun to explore. But if playing Relics of the Past and other mods like Second Wind has shown me anything, it's that even Breath of the Wild could be improved with more additions to the overworld. Granted, in the case of that game, it was probably more of a development time issue sort of thing, but I digress. All of those examples pale in comparison to the worst offender of all, Skyward Sword. Before we get into this though, if you could take 1 second of your time and consider subscribing to the channel. I'm trying to reach 100,000 subscribers before the launch of Tears of the Kingdom, and I plan to cover that game extensively on the channel, so consider helping me out. I'd really appreciate it. Alright, before anyone gets angry, I want to preface this by saying, I actually think there's a lot to love about Skyward Sword. I get that it's an easy game to pick on, but like, come on, you can't deny it's got some great storytelling. Sure, it's essentially the classic Zelda formula and can be a bit cliche at times, but it's hard not to get invested in the journey, and it's got a great cast of characters as well. Skyward Sword is also home to some really great dungeons. I agree they can be a bit linear at times, but the Sand Ship and the Ancient Cistern always come to mind when I think of fun and unique Zelda dungeons, so I think that should count for something. But you didn't click on this video to listen to me praise Skyward Sword, so let's talk about the biggest sin in the entire series. The sky. There is a lot to say about the sky in Skyward Sword. For something that's literally in the title of the game, Nintendo really didn't do it justice. I mean, here, look at this. It's just bland. If you looked up bland in the dictionary, the definition would read the color of the clouds in Skyward Sword. It's the color of khaki pants. Like, am I supposed to be flying around the clouds in a whimsical sky world or traveling through a sea of cargo shorts? Beyond that, the sky is just empty. You've got rocks, tiny islands, sometimes a minigame, there's this pumpkin thing, but that's it. That's about as exciting as it gets in the sky, which that in itself might not be terrible, but if you combine that with the fact that getting around is just not fun, it really starts to impede my enjoyment as a player. Flying around in the sky is slow and really makes traveling from location to location extremely boring. And since there is basically no other reason to fly around, that's all you'll ever be doing up here. Just going from one pillar of glowing light to the next. Besides the occasional wag of the controller, or I guess a shake of the Joy-Con if you're playing Skyward Sword HD, you just point in the direction you want to go and wait until you get there. You might find an enemy or a boost rock or maybe a tornado along the way, but those do almost nothing to make things better. And I'm not even asking you to take my word for it. Here's what Barry, ex-editor for the Game Grumps, had to say. And he studied game design. I mean, look, he's got a book about it right here.
Then let's make the environment more interesting. Imagine the current sky, but filled with clouds. Bwap. All over the place. Bwap, bwap. Really, really big ones. Bwap. And itty-bitty tiny ones. Alright, so in Skyward Sword, when you fly into one of these new clouds, woomph! Big old burst of happy cloud particles. Oh, and while I'm at it, why can't we fly at night? The night sky is gorgeous. Imagine having yourself an Aladdin-esque magic Loftwing ride with our new happy clouds. Maybe it's just my speakers, but when my Loftwing flaps their wings, I don't feel anything. Make the sky blue and white instead of fart and sad. Add happy poofy clouds, and add more whooshy shouty sound effects. Bada bing, bada better game.
Barry makes some good points though. The addition of mountaintops, particles, being able to fly during the day and night, as well as adding some sound effects, would go a long way in improving Skyward Sword's overworld. And yes, changing the color of the clouds to white would make it just look so much better, even if that is only a visual thing. Point being, the sky is probably the worst overworld of all of the 3D Zelda games, and I think Nintendo understands this, and it's why I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Tears of the Kingdom. From the trailer, they seem to have already addressed a lot of the complaints levied against Skyward Sword. I mean, look at this. Oh man, Man, those clouds look gorgeous, bright, and poofy. They make me want to instantly dive into them. And look over here, it's nighttime. We can explore the sky during the night too. We aren't forbidden from seeing the splendors of the sky to a specific time of day. Not that I would have expected that from the sequel to Breath of the Wild, but it's a huge improvement over the last game to feature the sky. And check that out. Look at all those sky islands. Oh, they're big too. I actually want to go there and find out what those trees are hiding, or what's inside that temple over there. What's underneath this shrine-looking building. Islands actually seem important and worth going out of your way to explore. I feel like I'll be rewarded just for exploring the sky instead of, wasting time picking up a goddess chest that I unlocked several hours ago and forgot about. There are even dragons and other enemies flying around, which, if you consider the fact that Nintendo had a patent filing that showcased different mid-air combat maneuvers, I get the idea that this will make the sky both exciting and dangerous. Point is, exploring the sky is going to be just as important as exploring the surface, which again, seems like a no-brainer, but that's something that Skyward Sword failed at. And I don't even think I really need to mention the sound effects. Breath of the Wild already nailed the sound design. I mean, they kinda had to, since the game is mostly void of music besides the occasional string or soft theme playing in the background. But have you actually just listened to the wild in Breath of the Wild? Like, here. Oh, and this is a good one. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. So I have no doubt that the sound effects for the sky will be in full force and will hopefully make a positive impact on player immersion. Now, myself and many others have been quick to criticize Skyward Sword for having a large disconnect between the surface and the sky. When you're flying around in the sky, clouds create a barrier to the surface, and they're only opened by giant beacons of light. Once you get to the surface though, the sky is, well, a sky. You can see clear as day right up. I know the game's story tries to explain this away, but I've always felt like the sky and the surface were two different games. Imagine how cool it would have been in Skyward Sword if you could have looked up and seen Skyloft or some of the smaller islands up there. It would have gone a long way in connecting these two parts of the game together and made them feel as one. Thankfully, Tears of the Kingdom seems to be doing just that. In clips where Link is falling down, you can see islands in the distance, which to me indicates that even when I'm on the surface, if I were to look up, I'm gonna see stuff in the sky. And that's gonna make me want to figure out what's up there and how to get to them. One issue that I still think hasn't been fully resolved yet is how you traverse the sky. Loft wings were a cool idea, but in practice, they're just too slow and as a result, too boring. We've seen at least two modes of transportation in the sky for Tears of the Kingdom thus far. Of course, we have the paraglider, but that's more of a slower tool used to descend rather than to travel from one island to the other. I'm sure for short distances it'll work fine as long as you're traveling to lower elevations, but we still need some way to ascend the sky and move quickly through the clouds. That's probably where this second form of transportation comes in. We saw it briefly at the end of the title reveal trailer. Link lands on top of a weird looking glider of sorts and starts making his way towards the glowing glyph in the distance. It's hard to really say for sure what this thing will be used for since we only see it for a brief moment, but I have to imagine that it's going to be used to fly through the sky quickly and efficiently. I guess one other option would be giving Link the ability to tame and ride sky dragons similar to horses, and honestly, that would be pretty sweet, but I'm not so sure it would work in the grand scheme of things just due to how often it seems we'll be in the sky. If we are going to be spending a majority of the time in the sky, traveling from one island to the next needs to be as convenient as walking or running is on the surface. So whatever travel system they do come up with, it's got to be fun, quick, and convenient, otherwise I think it could just end up falling apart. All I can really say is that I'm glad Nintendo decided to revisit the idea of exploring the sky world. I think the technology has advanced far enough and they've learned enough from the criticism levied against Skyward Sword to really build out a sky world that is exciting and fun to explore, and I can't wait to dive into those clouds when the game is released. Anyways, I think that's where I'm going to end off this discussion. Let me know what you guys think about the sky in both Skyward Sword and Tears of the Kingdom in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like rating, and if you want to see more of my videos, consider subscribing or checking out the video on screen now. I think you'll like it. As always, my name is Matt, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.